I'm ready. The Medrash tells us that when during Kriyas Yamsuf, during the splitting of the Red Sea, from the sea there grew trees from the sea that carried fruits, and the children tore down, ripped off the fruits from the trees and gave them to the birds that sang along with the Yidden while they said Shira, which is the reason why Shabbos Shira we give kasha for the birds. In other words, before Shabbos. There's a rule, Lo yavid kutra brichu nisa lemagno. God does not make a miracle for nothing. The reason for it is because nature is a creation of God. Although nature conceals godliness, as Chassidus explains that the Hebrew word teva for nature is from the word tubu b'yamsuf. They were sunk, they were submerged in the Red Sea, just like a thing which is submerged in water. So the water covers the thing that is located in it, and only the water is visible. Likewise, the nature also of the world also conceals the godly, covers up the godly vitality, that chayas, that invigorates her. In other words, although God is mechadish betuvay b'chol yom tamid masiv reishis, is constantly renewing in His goodness every day the deed of creation. However, due to the nature conduct of olam keminhagei noyeg, where the world goes on its own conduct itself almost always in the same manner, so it might seem that, God forbid, ein manig labira, there is no leader to the capital, to this world, and it's conducted by itself. But in reality, nature itself is also creation of the Eibishter. And as it says, Chukos Shemayim va'oretz gomer samti, that the natural laws of heaven and earth, says the Eibishter, I instituted, and there is a meaning in the order of the conduct of nature. And therefore, the Eibishter, God, does not make a miracle, which is a change of nature, if it is not necessary, in order not to interfere with the orders of nature. So therefore, it's not understood. In order to save the Yidden, would have been enough the very miracle of Kriyas Yamsuf, of splitting the Red Sea. Why was it necessary to be an additional miracle? That they should grow trees, and the trees should give fruit as soon as they were created. Not like the natural order that it takes a duration of time since from when you plant the tree till it starts to grow on its fruit. And then it first takes time till those fruit are ready to be eaten. And over here, immediately on the spot, there grew trees with ready fruit that they gave for the birds. Also, we have to understand that the essential miracle of splitting the Red Sea was not in a manner that the water of the sea dried out. It became no longer sea. Just the miracle was that the water of the sea remained. It split, and they became a wall for the Yidden from both sides. As the pasuk says, "V'mayim lohem chayma miminam u'mismoilam." The water is for them a wall from the right side and the left side. So it's not understood. Would have been enough. The miracle that Yidden should go in the dry, in the ocean, in the sea. Why did there have to be an additional miracle that the water should become a wall? So one must say that the miracle of Avamayim Lohem Choyma, Miminam Umismoilam, that the water is for them a wall from their right and from their left, and likewise the miracle from the fruit trees in the sea was not an additional miracle, but this was apart from the very essential concept of splitting the Red Sea. And therefore, in the story of splitting the Red Sea, the Torah tells us twice about the waters that became a wall. Once, as soon as the Yidden entered the sea, and the Yidden came in the midst of the sea, in the dry land, and the water was for them a wall from their right and from their left. And the second time, after the Yidden already passed the sea and the Egyptians were submerged, they drowned. So Yidden had walked Vamayim Lahem Choyma Miminam Mismoilam, that the water was for them a wall from the right and from the left, which this shows that the fact that Vamayim Lahem Choyma Miminam Mismoilam, that the water was for them a wall from the right and from their left, concerned the entire time of their going within the sea in the dry land, from their entrance into the sea till their exit from the sea. On the pasuk Vamayim Lahem Choyma Miminam Umismoilam, so the Mechilta says, Mechilta is the Medrash on the pasuk, says that then there was a kitrug, there was a prosecutorial claim against the Yidden. Bnei Adam oivdim avodah zarah mahalchim biyabosha b'sei chayam. People who are worshipping idols, they're walking in the dry land within the sea. Amongst the Yidden, there were then also such that were worshipped idols. So the claim was, why do they deserve that they should be saved through a miracle? With what are they better than the Egyptians? Elu oivdei avodah zarah ve'elu oivdei avodah zarah. As the Lashon of the Zoyar and the Alkut Ruveni, these worship idols and these worship idols. And the Mechilta concludes, Mi goram lahem li Yisrael lihi notzel, who caused the Yidden to be saved, mi yaminam u mismoilam, from their right and from their left. Mi yaminam from the right, bischus ha-toiro shasidin l'kabel. Shenemar mi yaminam ishdas lamoi, in the merit of the Torah that they are going to receive. How do we know that Torah has something to do with the right? Because in Vazais HaBracha, the blessing that Moshe gives to the Yidden, he says, from the right, the Torah is a fiery religion to them. And from the left, that's a reference to davening, to prayer. Another version, that the left is a reference to tefillin, to the phylacteries, that the tefillin that Yidden put on. In other words, Torah and Tefillah or Tefillin, the two lines of right and left, were the wall that protected the Yidden from both sides and saved them. It is not understood. Why did they need a wall, a merit, that shall protect the Yidden from both sides, both from the right and from the left? Why wasn't it enough for them? Why didn't it suffice for them one merit? Specifically, the merit of Miyaminam, which goes on the Torah, which they are going to receive, and by the giving of the Torah. So the Eibishter, God had chosen Yidden from all nations, and therefore, when we say in the blessings of Kriyas Shema, the reading of Shema, we say, "Uvodu v'chartem v'kolam v'loshin," in us you have chosen from each nation and language. One has to have in mind that it refers to Matan Torah, to the giving of the Torah. That this choice is also in the body of the Yid, as the Alter Rebbe states in Tanya, chapter 49, and it is different from the bodies of Gentiles, and the existence of their bodies are from the three shells that are totally nullified, the Gimel Klippus Atmeis, and where the existence of Jewish bodies is from Klipos Noiga. The body of a Yid himself comes from the very essence of the Eibishter. However, the maintenance of the body comes, and the sustenance of the body comes from the Klipa of Noiga shell, which includes also good. The difference between Klipas Noiga, the shell of Noiga, and the three totally Talmudic Klipas shells is a difference of totally no comparison. Similar to the difference between a shell and holiness. Because the three Talmudic shells cannot ascend to holiness. Klipas Noiga, on the other hand, the shell of Noiga, of light, which contains also good, can ascend. So we see that in potential, the klipa of Noiga, the shell of Noiga, is a concept of holiness, even more. This potential will definitely materialize, because the sparks of holiness of Noiga will definitely ascend to holiness, as it says, Lo yidach mimenu nidach. Ultimately, every Yid will return to the Eibishter. And although Noiga can descend temporarily in the three Talmudic klipas, defiled shells, it is only temporarily, but ultimately they will ascend to holiness. And since, due to Matan Torah itself, Yidden were already divided in a basic and fundamental division from the nations of the world, so it would suffice the merit of giving of the Torah to remove the claim of Elu of the Avodah Zarah Chulu ve'elu Chulu. Why did we need also the merit of prayer or tefillin? In the splitting of the Red Sea, there were two things. A, during the splitting of the Red Sea, the exodus of Egypt has completed. Because prior to the splitting of the Red Sea, even after the Yidden exited Egypt, and even after they arrived to Piachiros, they were still being pursued from Paroi and his army. And only by the splitting of the Red Sea did this complete itself, was this finished, and it was completed, the exodus from the exile of Egypt. Splitting of the Red Sea was a preparation to the giving of Torah. As this thing is explained many places in Chassidus. The splitting of the Red Sea was not only in order to save Yidden, because the saving of Yidden could have been also on a different manner, and there are many ways for the Eibishter. Also, it wasn't because of their continued travel in the desert, because on the same side that they descended, on the same side they ascended. On the same side that Yidden entered the Yam Suf, they also went out. In other words, they were both on the western side, the entrance into the Yam, and the exit from the Yam were both on the eastern part of the Yam. On the western part of the Yam. It's not that they crossed the Yam Suf from west to east by going in the ocean, but they entered from one side and they came out from the other side. It was merely a preparation to Matan Torah. Through Matan Torah, what was accomplished? The connection, the attachment of the above with below. The preparation to this was turning a sea into dry land. The godly power, which is concealed in the Bria, which is like the sea, just like the sea covers all that is located within it, came out in a revealed manner like dry land, just during the splitting of the Red Sea. So this revelation was in a very general and temporary manner, and this was a preparation to this, that during the giving of the Torah, we gave every Yid the power to attach and reveal godliness above with below through Torah and mitzvahs in a set manner. All worldly concepts, which in the beginning he created for Yidden who are called Reishis, beginning, they are connected with Reishis, with Yidden. Every activity of a Yid, of a Jew, with and by himself, accomplishes that the same should be accomplished also in the world. From this it is understood that by the splitting of the Red Sea, it was revealed the godliness which is hidden in the world. It is connected with this that by Yidden was revealed the godliness that was hidden in their neshama, and therefore there had to be the wall from the right and from the left. Also, the merit of Torah, right, and also the merit of tefillin, of prayer, of tefillah or tefillin, which is left, because only through the avodah in both kavim, yamin and smail, does one reveal the hidden godliness in the neshama. If the avodah is only in one kav, only in one line, even when in this line he does the avodah, he does the service with all his powers, till total mesiras nefesh, giving over of the soul, dedication, total dedication, it could still be that he does this all due to nature, whether the nature of the selfish soul, the animal soul, or even the nature of the godly soul. But all because in his nature he is drawn to this type of avodah. When does the true nullification and dedication of a Yid to the Eibishter express itself in a manner that he should exit his own ego? When he serves the Eibishter in two opposite lines. Such an avodah, such a service, cannot be due to the nature, because due to one's nature, a person is limited to one of these two lines, due to his total dedication and devotion to the Eibishter, to God. And therefore, only through the service of Yid in both lines, also miyaminam, also from the right and also from the left, does it express itself, their devotion to God in a manner which goes over the limitations of their nature and entity, and this comes due to the hidden godliness from each Jewish neshama, which is a chelik elikami ma'umamish, part of the Eibishter himself. And since the conduct of the entire world depends upon the service of a Yid, of a Jew, so through this that Yidden, the Jews, accomplished by themselves, that it should be revealed the concealment of their neshama, of their soul, godly soul, which brought to this that their avodah, their service, was in both kavim, or the merit that they're going to, they will accomplish. So this accomplished also in the world, that the yam, the helim, the concealment, came out in a revealed manner, and it stood like a wall from both sides, miyaminam and mismeilon, from the right and the left. It didn't become no longer yam. It didn't become dried out. Just the water became dry. The concealment went out, begilui, and it became a wall from right and from left. In other words, it didn't evaporate, but it became an entity of dry. And with these words of the Rebbe, one can explain also a general concept that we find regarding the requirement that before Pesach we have to burn the chametz. Regarding this requirement, we have an argument between Rabbi Yehuda and Chachamim, whether it's enough that one crumbles. Everybody agrees that the primary way, the primary responsibility of a person before Pesach is to burn the chametz. But what if you can't burn the chametz? What do you do then? Is it okay if I just crumble it and throw it in the wind? or maybe you throw it into the sea, or it's necessary that I should only burn it. Rabbi Yehuda insists that the only way to deal with the chametz is burn it. Why indeed? And one can say, what does it mean, chametz and matzah? Chametz, it represents, what's the difference between chametz and matzah? They're both dough that mixed with water, but one rises. The chametz rises, and it shows on the yeshus of a person, where a person feels his ego, his entity. Matzah, on the other hand, represents bittul, self-nullification towards the Eibishter. When the burning of chametz, it's not just that you take chametz and you make it should no longer be chametz. When you burn chametz, what becomes of the chametz? It becomes dust and ashes. And we know that Avram says, "Vanoichi offer ve'efer," I am dust and ashes. That shows on his nullification towards God, that I am nothing. I take myself, I am now a metzias of bittul, of nullification towards the Eibishter. And this is what Rabbi Yehuda says. It's not enough to take the chametz, that the chametz should dissipate and no longer exist as chametz. It is important to transform this entity of an ego and transform it to an entity of nullification towards the Eibishter. And in this merit, we should merit the redemption, the ultimate redemption, in which there would no longer be a chametz, there would no longer be Yetzer Hara, and we will be with King Mashiach in the Beis HaMikdash, being makar of the Karbanos.